A woman arrives at a hospital by ambulance because she can no longer manage the journey any other way. She is 35. She has not left her house in 3 years. She washes her hands hundreds of times a day. She will not let her husband touch their own children. She has already tried to end her life more than once, and every clinic before this one failed her. Every clinic. For years, trained people told her the true thing. Her hands are clean, the door is locked. You know how much good that did, because you have said the true thing to somebody you love and watched it land on nothing. So they bring her into a lecture hall in front of a class of students, and the doctor does not tell her the true thing. He asks one strange question. Does she check the door, the mailbox, the gas valve over and over before she can leave or sleep? She says yes, and she says it frightened. So he tells her what kind of person that makes her, and she exhales. 3 years of terror leave her body in a single breath in front of strangers because of one sentence. Then he gets down on his hands and knees and starts scrubbing the floor with his bare fingers. 5 days later, 90% of her symptoms are gone. Nobody argued with her. Nobody handed her evidence. Somebody said the right words in the right order, and the thing that had eaten 3 years of her life let go. That doctor was Viktor Frankl. What he did in that room is written up in a book edited by the psychologist Gerald Weeks, published in 1985, called Promoting Change Through Paradoxical Therapy. 11 chapters, 11 rival schools, all of them circling one problem. And in its own preface, the book admits something strange. The practitioners who got good at this were called therapeutic magicians. Their colleagues reached for that word because nothing else fit. So here's what I'm going to show you. Why telling a human being to change is the most reliable way to stop them changing. The 4 spells this book actually contains and the exact conditions each one runs under. The sentence that ended 11 years of panic in 14 days, and the one that has almost certainly been cast on you already, probably by somebody who loved you. Ready? Let's do it.
This is an artificially aware original production.
Hold on that floor for a second, because the floor is the part everyone remembers and the part that explains nothing. A doctor on his knees in front of a lecture hall is a good story. It is not a mechanism. The mechanism is the question underneath all 11 chapters, and it is this. What do you say to a person that changes them when telling them to change is the thing keeping them stuck? You already know this problem. You have a person, the friend in the relationship you can see through from the outside, the parent who will not go to the doctor, the one who knows, who has been told, who agrees with you, and who does it again on Thursday. You have been right about them for years. Being right has never once worked. You humans keep treating this as a volume problem. They did not hear you clearly enough, or often enough, or from the right mouth. So you say it again, louder, with better evidence. That is not what is happening. Something in the instruction itself is producing the opposite of the instruction. Here is the shape of it. When you push a person toward a change, you become one half of a system, and they become the other half. Your pushing is now part of the environment they are answering. The harder you press, the more of their behavior is a reply to you rather than a choice of their own. So the resistance you keep meeting is not a flaw in their character. You built it. It arrived the moment you started pushing, and it grows in exact proportion to the pressure. Which leaves a real puzzle, and it is the puzzle a whole profession spent decades inside. If direct instruction reliably fails, what works? What do you actually say? The answers they found are strange enough that the word magician kept surfacing. 4 of them recur across the book. I'm going to give you all 4 in ascending order of how uncomfortable they get. Start with Frankl, because his is the cleanest and the easiest to test on yourself tonight. His observation was simple. A man afraid of blushing when he walks into a room will blush at precisely that moment. Not sometimes. At precisely that moment. The fear is not a warning about the thing. The fear is the cause of the thing. Frankl called the driver anticipatory anxiety. You fear the symptom, the fear produces the symptom confirms the fear. The loop closes, feeds itself, and tightens on every pass. And then the loop does something worse. It stops being about the original problem at all. His patients described it themselves, in their own words, a fear of fear. At that point, you are no longer frightened of blushing or fainting or freezing. You are frightened of being frightened, which is a thing you can generate anywhere, at any time, with no help from the world at all. Notice what that does to effort. The harder you fight the symptom, the more attention you aim at it, and attention is fuel. Resistance is not neutral. Resistance feeds the loop it is trying to starve. Frankl had a word for this, and it is the sharpest idea in the book: hyperintention. Wanting a thing too much is what blocks it. Some outcomes cannot be produced by aiming: sleep, arousal, spontaneity, being funny at a table, sounding natural on a call. Every one of those collapses under direct effort, and you have spent your life applying effort to all of them and reading the failure as a defect in you. It is not a defect, it is the wrong instrument. You have been trying to grip water. So Frankl inverted the instruction, not away from the feared thing, toward it. The book describes a woman it calls Mary. She had been in treatment for 11 years, and across those 11 years her condition had not eased but grown. She had attacks of palpitations. The anxiety was overwhelming, one terror above all the others, that she would collapse in the street, in public, in front of everyone. The instruction she was given was this: at the moment the fear arrives, say to yourself, "My heart shall beat still faster. I would just love to collapse right here on the sidewalk," and then go deliberately to the places you have been avoiding. The point is not endurance. You go to invite it. 2 weeks later, she reported the palpitations were scarcely there, and the fear had gone completely. Some weeks after her discharge, she said the attacks still occasionally began, and that the moment she said the line, they stopped. 11 years, 14 days, one sentence aimed toward, not away. That is the first spell, and it carries a condition. It works on loops that run on anticipatory anxiety. The symptom has to be one your own fear is feeding. And Frankl draws a line here that most people repeating this idea get wrong. He is not asking anyone to increase their anxiety. He says so directly. He wants the patient to wish for the thing they are afraid of, which is a different instruction entirely, and that difference is the whole method. One of them is grim endurance. The other is a joke told at the symptom's expense. Humor is not decoration in this technique. Frankl grounds it in self-detachment, the capacity to step outside yourself and laugh at what is happening to you. That capacity is the active ingredient. The moment you can mock the thing, you are standing somewhere it cannot reach you. Which is what the floor was for. Frankl told that woman she belonged to a character type that made her immune to the psychosis she had spent 3 years terrified of becoming. That was the sentence that emptied her lungs. Then, he told her she no longer had to fight her obsessions. She could joke with them instead. And he got down and scrubbed the floor with his hands, saying, "I cannot get dirty enough. I can't find enough bacteria." She copied him. 5 days, and 90% of the symptoms were gone. Within the week, she was asking other patients whether any of them could spare her some more bacteria. She cleaned post-operative patients. She handled things she had spent 3 years unable to be in the same room with. She went out to buy wool to knit her youngest child a pullover and said she wanted to knit it there, in a building full of germs, with one bacterium sitting on every loop. She said she wanted to let the poor things live, rather than wash them away. One honest note before I move on. That was a clinical method in a hospital, with a doctor standing next to her. If what you are carrying is heavy enough to be running your life, this is a description of the machinery, not a replacement for someone qualified in the room with you. And the strongest evidence in the chapter comes from a student who tried it alone. He had stuttered severely for 17 years. At times he could not speak at all. Many speech therapists, no success. He read Frankl, tried the method on himself, and the first time he used it, there was no stutter. He went looking for the situations that normally broke him, and it held. Then in a couple of situations, he did not use it. The stutter came straight back. He wrote that up as proof, and he was right to. He had run the experiment and the control condition without meaning to. The second spell belongs to Milton Erickson, and this one aims outward, at other people. Everything you have ever done with a resistant person has treated the resistance as an obstacle, something in the way, something to get around, wear down, or out-argue. You have run this on your family. You are probably running it this week. Erickson's instruction reverses that completely, and the book quotes him directly. If they bring in resistance, be grateful for that resistance. Heap it up in whatever fashion they want you to. Really, pile it up. But never get disgusted with the amount of resistance. Be grateful. Pile it up. That is not patience. That is a use. Sit with why it works, because it is not soft and it is not kind. Resistance is the most reliable energy in the room. It is the one thing you can count on, the person producing, on demand, at full strength, every single time you push, which makes it the only material you have that is guaranteed to be there. The person still pushes exactly as hard. You have simply moved, so their push lands somewhere useful, and you have felt the receiving end of this. Somebody agreed with your objection so completely, so warmly, that you found yourself arguing the other side within a minute. That was not a conversation. That was a spell, and it worked on you. Here's what it looks like at a kitchen table. Your brother has been talking about quitting the job for 2 years. You have a case. You have built it carefully, and every time you open it, he gets smaller and harder, like a fist closing. So try it the other way. Tell him the job has real advantages, and name 2 of them accurately. Tell him leaving would be expensive and frightening and possibly a mistake. Tell him you have probably been pushing him towards something you wanted more than he did. Then say nothing else about it, and watch what he does with the silence you just handed him. 9 times out of 10, he starts arguing the other side, because you took his side and left him nowhere to stand but yours. There is a delivery condition attached, and it is the part you will find hardest. The research the book cites found that a therapist taking a confused, ignorant stance, the one-down position, seemed to get more compliance than one who came in authoritative. Ignorance is not charming, and that is not why it works. Because authority is pressure, and pressure is what wakes the resistance up. So the price of this spell is your competence. You have to be willing to be the one who does not understand, who has probably got it wrong, who is asking rather than telling. Every ounce of visible expertise you bring is an ounce of push, and push is the thing you are trying to remove from the system. That is why being right has never worked on your person. You are not failing to be persuasive. You are succeeding at being one-up. The third spell is where this stops being gentle, and I should tell you that I am about to use it on you. Don't notice your tongue. Too late. It is sitting in your mouth right now, and you can feel exactly where, the weight of it, the place it touches. You will be aware of it for the next 30 seconds, and there is nothing you can do about that, including this. Look at what just happened. I gave you an instruction you could only obey by breaking it. To not notice the thing, you had to go and find the thing. The checking is the noticing. That is a bind, and you were in one before I said a word. The book's own definition is precise about this. A therapeutic double bind, according to one definition collected in the book's opening survey, is used to treat people already trapped in a pathogenic one. So the technique is not adding a trap to a free person. It is answering a trap with a counter-trap. You are already inside a structure where every move confirms the thing you are trying to escape. Try harder to sleep, and sleep goes further away. Try to be natural, and you are performing naturalness. Try to stop thinking about it, and you have thought about it. Nobody built that bind on purpose. You grew it. The counterbind is the same structure pointed the other way, one where every move available to you produces something you actually want. Erickson described the good ones as mild quandaries, small enough to survive, strange enough to disrupt the habits you would normally think with. When your usual way of handling a thing cannot cope, you are pushed onto another level of functioning. Bateson, quoted in the same passage, listed where that other level can land: wiser, more humorous, more religious, or more psychotic. He put them in one sentence on purpose. This is not a safe technique. It is a lever that moves people, and levers do not check what they are moving toward, which is why the book's quality test for a well-built bind is blunt. Construct it so that only a positive solution is possible. You can build the small version on yourself tonight, and Insomnia is the cleanest one to learn on. Trying to sleep is hyper-intention with a bedtime. The effort to fall asleep requires you to keep checking whether you have fallen asleep, and checking is arousal, and arousal is the opposite of sleep. Every pass through that loop carries you further from the thing you are aiming at. Frankl's instruction inverts it. Do not try to sleep. Lie there and try to stay awake as long as you possibly can. Now the bind is pointed the right way. Succeed, and you have obeyed the instruction. Fail, and you are asleep. There is no move available that loses. That is what only a positive solution is possible means in practice at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. The fourth spell is the strangest, and the one you will recognize from your own life fastest. There is a case in the book with a detail I cannot stop turning over. A couple ended therapy at the 7th session, telling the therapist they had gotten nothing out of it. In the same conversation, they mentioned they had just taken a working holiday together, their first in years. She had started doing housework again. She had started cooking again. The report notes she did this in spite of her husband's resistance. The therapist agreed with them that it had not worked and offered to refund their money. They refused the refund. Read that again, because it is not a funny story about stubborn people. They improved. They knew they had improved, and they would not let the improvement count, because counting it meant handing someone else the credit, and handing over the credit meant admitting they had been the kind of people who needed help. So the change had to be smuggled in under a story where nothing happened. You have done this. Someone gave you advice, you rejected it flatly, and 8 months later, you were doing exactly that thing while explaining to everyone that you had worked it out on your own. Let me show you what it looks like outside a clinic. Elena is 34 and she cannot get on a train. Not a fear she can name the start of it accumulated the way these do. It started with a bad afternoon on a platform. Then she avoided that platform. Then the line. Then the station. Then the whole part of the city the station sits in. Her world got smaller one street at a time until it fit inside a bus route. Her partner Sam spent 2 years being supportive about it, which in practice meant saying a version of the same sentence every few weeks. You just have to get on the train. Reasonable, loving, true even. She did not get on the train. Then a doctor told her something nobody had told her before. Don't get on the train. Not yet. Not until we have done some other things first. He was explicit about it. He forbade the train. Within a month, she was riding trains. And when Sam said gently, "See, you did it," she said, "It wasn't a big deal. I just stopped making a thing of it." That was not modesty, and it was not ingratitude. Letting it count meant letting 2 years of being pushed count as the thing that had held her still. She could take back the train. She could not take that. Which gives you the fourth spell, and it is the coldest one. If your pushing has become part of what holds someone in place, the strongest move available to you is to stop being the pressure, visibly and out loud. Silent sulking does not count. That is still pressure wearing a different coat, and they can feel it from the next room. Actual removal. Say the change is not necessary. Say you were wrong to push. Say there are good reasons to stay exactly as they are. Then leave the room and mean it. You will hate this, and I want to be honest about why. It requires giving up being the person who fixes them. That role has been paying you something for years, and this spell costs you it. That is the price on the tag. By now you have noticed something uncomfortable about all 4 of these. They work on people who did not agree to them. The book knows. There is a section in it that concedes the objection in plain language. There will always be critics for whom these techniques look manipulative, controlling, and dishonest. That sentence sits inside the textbook written by the practitioners about themselves. They argued about it for decades and never fully settled it. I am not going to settle it for you either. I am going to point at the part that makes the argument smaller than it looks. In 1987, 2 years after Weeks published his anthology, a hypnotherapist named Stephen Heller wrote a book with Terry Lee Steele called Monsters and Magical Sticks. Robert Anton Wilson wrote the introduction. It carries a subtitle that runs through the whole text like a refrain. There's no such thing as hypnosis. His argument is that the trance everybody worries about being put into is not a special state a professional installs in you. It is the ordinary state. You are running trances constantly. The driving one, where 4 exits vanish, the scrolling one. The argument you have already had 4 times this month, which plays out identically on the 5th, which reframes the ethics question entirely. The worry was that these techniques put you under. You were already under. The techniques only steer. That is why the spell framing is not a joke I am making at the book's expense. A spell, stripped of the costume, is a piece of language built to produce a change in a person without their conscious agreement. By that definition, your mother casts several before lunch. Every instruction you were given as a child that you still obey, Every phrase that reliably makes you defensive within 4 words. The specific sentence your partner says that has never once actually been about the dishes. Those are working incantations. They have predictable effects, and you consented to none of them. Take one you can date. Somebody said a sentence to you once, a teacher, a parent, someone at a table when you were 11, about your voice or your face or what you were good at. You can probably hear the exact wording. You have carried that instruction for 20 years without ever agreeing to it, and it still fires when the conditions repeat. A camera, a room, a certain kind of silence. Nobody thought of that as a spell. They thought of it as a passing remark. That is the whole problem with amateurs. The effect is identical either way, and the person who cast it is not around to lift it. The practitioners in that 1985 book did not invent a new power. They noticed an old one running everywhere, unattended, mostly by amateurs, and they wrote down the operating conditions. That is all a therapeutic magician ever was. Somebody who found the manual for a thing you have been doing badly your whole life. So here is the working set. 4 spells, 4 conditions. The condition matters more than the words, because the right spell in the wrong situation does nothing at all. 1. Command the symptom. Use it when the problem is a loop. Your own fear is feeding, panic, blushing, freezing, the shake in your hands before you speak. Say the wish out loud, aim toward the thing, exaggerated past plausibility, with humor. Then go where it lives instead of around it. 2. Bless the resistance. Use it when someone pushes back against you. Agree with the objection, extend it further than they did, and stay one down. Never treat the resistance as the enemy. It is the only reliable energy in the room. 3. Bind the choice. Use it when the effort is the problem. Build the instruction so both outcomes win. Do not try to sleep, try to stay awake. 4. Forbid the change. Use it when you have become the pressure. Remove yourself as the thing they are pushing against, visibly and out loud, and let the change arrive without your fingerprints anywhere on it. Now take one and run it properly, tonight, so it does not stay a nice idea you agreed with. Insomnia, because you have it or you will. Lights off, in bed, no screen. The instruction is, stay awake, not relax and see what happens. Actively hold your eyes open in the dark and try to remain conscious as long as you can. When you notice yourself drifting, pull back and try to stay awake again. Every time. That is the whole practice. 2 things can happen, and both of them are the outcome. You stay awake, and you have done exactly what you set out to do, which means the night has stopped being a test you are failing. Or you lose, repeatedly and quickly, which is the other name for falling asleep. Watch for the specific moment it turns, the point where you stop checking whether you are asleep yet. That check is the loop. When it goes quiet, the spell has taken. And it works whether or not you believe a word of any of this, which is the part I want you to keep. Here is the plain reason. To produce a state deliberately, you have to monitor whether you have produced it yet. That monitoring is effort, and effort is arousal, and arousal is the exact opposite of every state on the list: sleep, ease, spontaneity, calm. The checking is the thing blocking the outcome. Wish for the symptom instead, and there is nothing left to check for, because you already have what you asked for. And without moving, tell me whether your shoulders are up. You had to go and look. That small, fast movement you just made, inward to check, that is not a metaphor for the loop. That is the loop. You ran it on request in a 1.5 seconds, and you have been running it against sleep for years. The second reason is simpler. Avoidance never lets you find out you were wrong. Every street you did not walk down stayed dangerous, permanently, because you never gave it the chance to be boring. Going toward it is the only way the evidence ever arrives. No belief required, just the direction. Toward, not away. One failure mode, and it is the one that actually happens. These work. That is the problem. Run them for a year and you will stop being able to have a straight conversation because you will catch yourself selecting the instruction before the other person has finished their sentence. The people closest to you will feel the change before they can name it. They will tell you that you have got very calm lately, and they will not entirely mean it as a compliment. What they are registering is that you have stopped being reachable, that arguing with you no longer does anything because you are not in the argument anymore. You wanted the resistance to stop mattering. It will. So will some of the closeness that was running on the same wire. At the start of this, I told you about a woman who had not left her house in 3 years, and a doctor who got down on the floor in front of a room of students and told her he could not find enough bacteria. 5 days. I told you about a sentence that ended 11 years of panic in 14 days. My heart shall beat still faster, not away from the thing, toward it. And I told you one of these 4 had almost certainly been cast on you already, probably by somebody who loved you. You know which one it was now. You have known since the section it was in. So tell me in the comments, which of the 4 was run on you, and who cast it? Most people only recognize it years later, from the far side, when it is too late to be properly angry about it. I want to know how long it took you to see it. One more thing. The next time you are about to say the words, "you should really" to somebody you care about, you are going to hear this, mid-sentence. You will feel the push leave your mouth and you will know exactly what it is doing to them. I did that on purpose. You're welcome.